Hi, I'm Ken Walker.
And I'm Bob Gong, and we're here today to introduce you to winter bicycle commuting.
When you're riding your bicycle in the winter, it's important to be very visible to motorists. Part of that is wearing the right type of clothing, a high visibility clothing like a yellow or an orange during the day, and at night wearing white clothing that's visible in car lights. It's also good to have reflectors, and we found that the lower you wear the reflectors, the better. For example, reflecting leg bands that can go around your ankles, or shoes with reflecting stickers on them. Also, you can have some things that attach to your pedals that are reflective. All those things will help you to be visible during winter. Another important factor for riding a bicycle in the wintertime is your lights, having appropriate lights so that not only the cars can see you, but you can see where you're going. A headlight is probably one of the first, most critical options. There are several different varieties of headlights. There are headlights that attach to your helmet, lights that attach to your bike, but it's good to have something that's bright enough to actually illuminate the road in front of you. Also, a good tail light or tail lights are important. There are tail lights up to 2 watts now. They're extremely bright and can be seen for 2 miles or so behind you. Or there are cheaper lights that are, $5 but can be seen for quite a ways also. So those are important to have. And then for bicycles, there are just tons of different lights out there, all kinds of lights that you can wrap around your bike frame, your spokes and so forth, and make yourself visible, make yourself illuminated to motorists.
Here's a couple of different types of lights that I have on my bike. These 2 lights up front, the big round ones, are actually connected to what's called a dyno hub. So as long as my front wheel is spinning, I don't need any batteries. It generates the electricity needed to power these two headlamps that I have mounted here. But again, that's when the wheel's turning. That's the reason why I have an additional light, and this simple battery operated light can either be turned on to be in flashing mode or in steady mode. And I have this to supplement these lights because I'm not the fastest cyclist, and especially on the hills, and so when I'm not traveling that fast, this blinky light helps keep me visible to cars. And the next thing that's important to do if you do a lot of winter riding is to make sure you clean your bike and take care of your drivetrain, because especially during the winter months with the rain and all that, your drivetrain tends to get really dirty after rides. So you want to make sure you try to keep your chain, dry it off after rain, or wash it off with a hose if needed. And you want to make sure you re-lube the chain with a good quality lubricant. And another area besides just the chain would be to check to clean any mud and grime from the bottom bracket area in the crankset. That's where, especially if you don't have fenders, your tires will tend to kick up a lot of the road grime and kick it up onto your frame and into the chain rings. And dirt and grime, those are the worst enemies in terms of promoting wear and tear on your drivetrain. So it's all important to keep it clean, to keep the bike running well. All those factors are key reasons why it's important to keep your drivetrain as clean as possible. And pay attention to that after you ride in rainy weather. Another thing about having the right equipment for riding in the winter months is what's helpful is to have a set of fenders on the bike. This is a set of full fenders on both front and rear, and the fenders really help keep the rider clean as well as the bike clean. When we were talking about keeping the drivetrain clean earlier, the fenders really, when you have fenders on a bike, they really help keep the grime off the drivetrain, and they keep the grime off the rider themselves in terms of their feet and their legs. So it helps you arrive wherever you're going in a cleaner in a cleaner situation. So the full fenders are really nice to have. I would make sure you have tires with sufficient tread when you're riding in the winter time. Try to avoid slick tires. They may not provide as much traction. These tires also have a reflective stripe along the sidewall to make you more visible at night to cars. But another idea we want to make sure people understand is that you don't have to spend a lot of money if you want to ride and commute during the winter time. Here we have a bike that is not that expensive, and it was actually salvaged from a dumpster. And the parts on it are relatively inexpensive. And as we mentioned earlier, with all the grime, that occurs on the roadways when you ride in the winter, your components can wear out if you're not on top of it in terms of keeping the bike clean. And so to replace parts is not that expensive.
Here's a dose of reality for riding your bicycle in the wintertime. You're going to get wet, either wet from the rain or wet from sweat. But there are ways to soften that and make it more comfortable by choosing the proper clothing. You can go all the way from just spending a couple of dollars for something really cheap, or you can go up to $200, $300 for something, some Gore-Tex, some really fancy fabric with high-tech everything on it. One fabric is not necessarily better than the other. You can start with something very cheap like a PVC jacket, which keeps the rain out but makes you sweat a lot inside. You can spend a little bit more money and get various layers of polypropylene and other synthetics that will get a little bit wet, but they do stay fairly warm when they're wet. Even more money than that is buying something like nylons and coated jackets and things like that that are a little bit better at not making you not sweat so much, but they also keep the water out. And you can start spending a lot more money by going with something like wool. Wool fabrics are very good at keeping you warm even when they get wet, although they can get heavy and they can cost quite a bit of money. The most expensive type of item you can get, type of clothing you can get, is like a Gore-Tex or other high-tech synthetic fabrics like that. They're advertised to be breathable, and I found that they're not as breathable as people think, but they do keep you waterproof. And with having an underlayer of something synthetic, you are able to at least get some of the sweat off your body and not be quite as moist inside. Another aspect of riding your bicycle in the wintertime is to be aware of road hazards that may come ahead of you. I like to look ahead and make sure that I'm aware of things that are in front that might cause trouble for my riding. For example, leaves from trees, or acorns that fall from the oak trees in the autumn. Gravel and sand often frequents the trail when you have rainstorms that wash these things down. And those kind of things can take your front wheel and get you out of balance. So I like to ride straight through these objects. If I'm already in a turn and I can see some leaves or something in front of me, steer it straight at that point, and then when you're through the object, then continue your turn. It's important to go straight through those objects because they can grab the front wheel and tip you over. One more thing to look out for in front of you as far as road hazards go is painted surfaces. When the rain hits the little swaths of paint in the road or on the bike trail, a lot of times that can make you slip as well. Any change in pavement surface, if they've recently paved a road, you're riding on a road and you go across new pavement or you go across concrete or something like that, that change as well may cause your bike to slip a little bit if it's wet. So be careful of those kinds of things that are ahead of you and try to steer straight through those objects rather than turn while you're going through them.
After you're comfortable and you have this proper safety equipment on your bike, the most important thing to remember when you're commuting in the winter is to have fun. There's nothing more enjoyable to me to be on the bike path in the winter and have the whole bike path to yourself. And you get to take in the sounds, the birds, take in nature, the sights. It's a really great time to ride. So I really encourage everyone that can do it to do it.
So those are our tips for safe and enjoyable bicycle commuting in the wintertime.
So check if your workplace or organization has a bike commute club. And we really encourage you to go out there and have fun.